Hello everybody, Brills here. In this video, I'm going to show you how to convert mesh into a texture. To be more specific, bake displacement map. It usually used for animation, effect, or just shortcut for assets creation. It's not recommended for game assets though, unless you adjust the poly. There is two types of displacement that I will cover up. The first one is baking detail on an object, like the curved edge on my stylized hammer, bulky part on work helmet, or the details on a tree bark. And the second is baking flat object, like wall, floor, ground, terrain, etc. Any flat 2D object. And also, I will show you how to use it. Okay, let's go. The first version is if your model have a good topology, or at least it kind of looks like this. And also, you have UV unwrap your model. Smart UV projection is enough. First, we are going to duplicate the object and name it anything you want. This object is gonna be the displacement texture tester later. So we need to make this object low poly enough for that. We need to use multi-res unsubdivide because we are going to use bake from multi-res method. Click the unsubdivide button as many times as you need. Just make sure it looks low poly enough. If there is an error message after you click the unsubdivide button, then this method is not for you. You can skip this method and go to the next method. After I satisfied with the unsubdivided result, duplicate the object again and name it anything you want. Now this duplicated object is for baking, so I'm going to name it hammer bake. Then apply the multi-res modifier on the low poly version object. Next is we need a material on the hammer bake to perform baking. I'm going to remove the current material and add a new one and name it bake. We don't apply the multi-res on this object because we are going to perform displacement baking using bake from multi-res method. Okay, next is let's go to the setting workspace up here. Make sure you select the baking object and it select the bake material. Then Shift A and search for image texture node. Click new button to add a new texture, name it anything you want, then set the width and height to any value you need. I recommend you to use the power of 2 resolution because it will perform better on GPU. Then we don't need alpha, so uncheck that. Check the 32-bit float to get a better displacement result. Then click new image. Then go to the render properties, make sure you select the cycles render engine. If you have a good GPU, change the device to GPU compute. Scroll down on the bake section, check the bake from multi-res. You can also bake normal or a bump map from here, but we are going to bake displacement, so change the bake type to displacement. Make sure you select only the bake object, then press bake button. The displacement texture should be ready here. You can save it and it's ready to use. The second version is where you have a high poly object but with poor topology and no UV map data. Still the same as before, we need a low poly version of this to test it later. And also good enough topology and UV map. Ideally, you have to do manual retopology and make the good UV map. We can use shortcut by using remesh and smart UV projection method. Okay, so on your low poly object, go to the mesh properties, then click the remesh drop down, change the mode to quad, then click the quad reflow remesh. There will be a window pop up. Let's just change the number of phase to around 1000. Click the remesh button if you're done with the settings. The duration progress will be depends on how good your CPU is. After it done, you can perform shade smooth if you want to smoothen the sharp part. Now it's time to make the UV maps. Let's go to the UV editing workspace up here, then press A to select all of your mesh on edit mode, then press U to UV mapping. Choose unwrap, then smart UV project. You can adjust the angle limit whatever you'd like. I'm just going with this value. And also scale down a little bit, just not to touch the UDIM edges. Let's go back to the layout workspace. Now we want to make our low poly mesh overlap the high poly mesh position. So make sure both high poly and low mesh position, rotation, and scale is the same. Then go back to the low poly object and add a multi-res modifier and shrink wrap. We can hide the high poly object for now. Set the shrink wrap method to nearest surface point, snap mode to on surface, and target to the high poly object. Basically, we make the low poly mesh follow the shape of high poly model by using shrink wrap modifier. Then we use multi-res to get the details by subdividing the mesh, and also for baking the displacement map later. So subdivide the multi-res how many times as you need to get the details. If you're happy with the details result, change the multi-res level viewport to 0 and apply the shrink wrap modifier. The rest is basically the same as the previous version, so I'm just going to speed it up. Now to test it, let's use our low poly object. You can delete the back object if you want, then prepare the low poly object. On the low poly object, add a subdivision surface modifier. Choose any mode you'd like and give the value the same as you do unsubdivide on this low poly object, or any value you think is high poly enough. Next, add a displace modifier. Then add a new texture for this displace modifier, set the coordinates to UV, UV map to UV map, and direction to normal. This is why we have to UV unwrap our mesh, because it used for the coordinates. Let's start from point 2 strength. Remember what is the texture name on displace modifier is, then go to the texture properties, make sure you select the texture the same name as the displace modifier, set the type to image or movie. On the image dropdown, click the settings dropdown. You can load your texture through here. But if you don't see your back displacement texture, click open and load it from your PC disk. We don't need alpha and also no need to change anything in mapping. On the sampling section, you can adjust the filter type, eccentricity, and size. For example, if I edit the size to 50, you can see it kind of blur the displacement map effect. But if I set the size to low values, it makes the effect sharp. If you're happy with the settings, you can go back to the displace modifier again and adjust the strength to any value you think fit. Yep, in this part you just need to find what's the best value for your mesh. If you want to apply this low poly object into a true high poly object, you need to apply the subsurface modifier first, then the displacement modifier. To bake a flat object like a plane type of mesh, I'm going to use terrain as an example. Let's duplicate it first and move away the original. We're going to use the duplicated version. Name the duplicated version anything you want, then remove any materials and give it a new material. We also need a UV map. Since this terrain only needs a height, which is z-axis, we can just use UV projection from top view. So go to the UV editing workspace up here, then position your preview on top of your terrain. Press numpad 7 for the shortcut, then select all of your mesh on edit mode, press U, project from view bounds. Basically this will project UV map based on your view and fit the scale to UDIM space. That's it for UV mapping settings. Now go to the shading workspace, make sure you select the new material from your baking mesh. Add a texture coordinate node, then drag the generate port and add a mapping node from it, then drag the mapping node vector output and add a separate vector. Then take the Z output port to the principal BSDF base color. So this is basically we take the generate texture coordinates from the lowest to the highest point along the Z-axis of our terrain mesh. Then convert them into a black and white gradient based on their height level. Then we can add a image texture node again. I'm going to use 2K resolution and disable alpha. And of course enable the 32-bit float. Then go to the baking section. Now because we know the height map is just a gradient of black and white color, that means it's just albedo or diffuse data. Change the bake type to diffuse and influence only the color enabled. Then press bake. Save the texture. You can keep the 15% compression or 0% like me, but it will be large size. Now to test it, you can delete the duplicated terrain if you want. We add a plane to test it, then make the scale the same as the original. Select the plane and apply all of the transform. Then add a subdivision surface modifier into the plane, change the mode to simple. Now before changing the level, increase it one by one to make sure your PC can handle the vertices count. I'm going to change the level to 10. You can change the value to any value you think it fit the original high poly version. Then I'm going to disable the display here just to lighten my PC work. Add a displace modifier, it's the same as before. Add a new texture, coordinate to UV, UV map to UV map, direction to normal, and I will start the strength from 0.5. Go to the texture properties, on image drop down, go to settings drop down. Oh, before that, make sure you're on image or movie type. Load or select your bake displacement map from here. Then go to the modifier again and enable the subsurface modifier display, and then play around the display strength value. Then you can tweak the transform as you see fit, and that's it. My terrain here is using procedural material, so I'm just going to reapply it. Oh, also, if you see this kind of result, this is because our texture tile is repeating. Because the gap is very small, we can fix it by going to the texture properties. On mapping drop down, change the extension to extend. This is basically means if our texture reach the edge, don't repeat the tile texture, but stretch the edge pixel. Okay, that's all from me. I hope you learned something new. Cheers!